Leader, third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The federal and Alberta governments, not to mention the BC Liberals, with their alternate facts, hysterical rhetoric and revisionist history, have been fear-mongering about the risks to our economy if the Trans Mountain expansion doesn't go ahead.
Member, if I may stop you for a moment, if you could ensure that your question does not refer to the opposition, since it's supposed to be directed to the government member.
That's fair enough, Honourable Speaker. I'll make sure it doesn't refer to the members opposite. It's been reported that governments are actually based. I assume, Honourable Speaker, that this will also be applied to when we're referred to in their questions, because there's multiple times over the time that we've had here that they've referred to us, and I look forward to that. Thank you. But it's been reported that governments are actually basing their economic claims on an analysis commissioned by Kinder Morgan itself. Experts are raising significant questions about this analysis, whether because of changes in market conditions, flawed methodology, or erroneous assumptions about how the oil markets function. Some raise serious doubts about the argument that we could fetch a higher price of our oil in Asia than in the US. One expert called this argument kind of bogus. Add to this the fact that the price of oil has collapsed. In making its business case, Kinder Morgan assumed a price of $100 to $150 per barrel, and prices, Honourable Speaker, are now $60 per barrel. My question is to the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, who I understand has laryngitis, so I'll pose this question to the Minister of the Environment. We've heard this government talk about the risks of a spill to our environment, but what is their position on the questionable claims made about the economic benefits of this pipeline?
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the Third Party for the question and raising these issues in the Legislature. And certainly I'm aware of the difference in the market price of oil. I'm aware of questions that have been raised about the economics of the project, as I suspect are most members of the House. However, Honourable Speaker, with respect to those questions, that is not the primary concern of our government, nor is it the responsibility of our government to determine the economics of a project which we have neither initiated nor sought. What is our job, however, is to ensure that we do everything we can to protect British Columbia's economy, the tens of thousands of jobs in tourism, in film and television, in the seafood sector, the billions of dollars in economic development that stand with it, all of which, Honourable Speaker, all of which could be at risk from a single spill of diluted bitumen. We believe, Honourable Speaker, that we must defend BC's economy, we must defend our interests, we must defend our environment. We understand it's a federal project, federally regulated project in terms of allowing it. We understand also that the Constitution has a clear role for provinces in permitting, in conditions, and in regulating against negative impacts that are a concern and a detriment to our province.
Leader, third party on a supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The economic conditions have indeed changed significantly since Kinder Morgan was approved. We've seen oil prices crater due to world market changes. We face huge uncertainty about future prices due to new supply and to massive technological shifts as markets around the world embrace renewable technology. Energy experts say it's basically now impossible to predict future prices. And the analysis, Honourable Speaker, the analysis that Kinder Morgan relied upon in its application to the NEB and its claims of the economic benefits to Canada from this pipeline fundamentally assumed that there was no other export capacity that would be built. Honourable Speaker, since then, Keystone XL and Line 3 have now been approved, which add over $1 million barrels a day of export capacity. We now have more capacity than we need. In light of these trends, it's absolutely shocking, Honourable Speaker, that our federal government is willing to put taxpayer money behind this pipeline. My question, again, through the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, who has laryngitis, to the Minister of Environment, is this. Will this government demand that the federal government, and the government of Alberta publicly release their economic case, justifying their rhetorical assertions as to the economics of the Trans Mountain pipeline and its fundamental business case for national security and national importance?
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And while it isn't the job of the province of British Columbia specifically to make demands of the federal government with respect to business cases, when the federal government or the government of Alberta proposes putting public money into a project, I think they'd be well advised to listen to the advice of the Premier of British Columbia, who said our focus, and we think every province and every government in Canada's focus, should be on adding value to our resources and creating the most jobs possible for resources. Honourable Speaker, that's what we're trying to do here in British Columbia. We're trying to get the most value from our resources to give the most value to British Columbians who want jobs rather than profits to corporations headquartered outside of this province. And we will continue to take every step that we're allowed under the Constitution to protect tens of thousands of jobs, to protect our tourism industry, our seafood industry, our film industry, the billions of dollars in GDP from the tremendous threat of a catastrophic oil spill that could be caused by a pipeline rupture, it could be caused by a train derailment, and it could be caused by a 7-fold increase in tanker traffic off our shores. Thank you.